It looks like it's potato moving day. We had a look at those seed potatoes that we popped into 2 litre pots just to get them started. We only did that so we had the option of maybe taking them indoors, because obviously this weather is not consistent at this time of year. It can just drop to a minus temperature any time in April, and that's going to be devastating to your potato plants, along with quite a few other things as well. So we decided to put 1 seed potato in a 2 litre pot. We can get that plant started and then we can just take it all out in one clump and then transplant it into a bigger container later on, once we know we're somewhere around safe with that temperature. They've grown quite a bit quicker than I thought they would. That has got lots and lots of growth on it. It's a really healthy looking plant though, but it's way too big to be in this container now. It's getting to an height, a sunwing region of 6 inches, and once they reach that in a small container like this, the roots are going to start to build up. And in order to transplant them without damaging them, this is the stage that we want to take them out. At least that's the theory. So we're going to have a look at this potato plant today, and that's a rocket first early potato. So we can put them in quite small containers, because when we harvest these potatoes, they're only going to be as big as eggs. The new potatoes, or salad potatoes. By the time we get round to planting second earlies and main crops, it's going to be consistently warmer, so we shouldn't have too much of a problem with those, except for winds. But that happens every year around here. And talking of weather, I did say yesterday that between Wednesday and Thursday the temperatures are going to drop down to somewhere around 2 degrees, but that's changed overnight. So now they're saying that maybe Wednesday or Thursday it's going to drop down to 0, and that is definitely a time for you to take your plants out of your greenhouse and pop them indoors. Your peppers, your tomatoes, French beans, cucumbers, any delicate plants like that won't stand frosts. Your cucumbers especially will probably just fall over and die. Other plants will just start to discolour. Some leaves are going to start to turn black, and that's going to slow down that plant's growth, if not stop it completely. So if they're in little containers like we've got ours in, 9 centimetres or so, I would advise that tonight, or this afternoon, take them indoors and leave them there until Friday when those temperatures go back up. I'm going to repot this plant into this container. That's a 12 litre, so it's not a massive container, but previously we moved one on into a 10 litre, and that's this one, which you've seen before. A really good sized potato plant. But if you look at the difference between these containers, this one is consistently wider all the way down than that one. These are perfectly good for growing your new potatoes in, but these ones will allow those potatoes to spread out along this area more, so potentially you could get a couple more potatoes out of it, and it's not taking up too much more compost either. So I'm going to try one in this container, and it has got nice holes all the way around that base, so plenty of drainage. So when I move these plants on, what I want to be doing is adding a bit of compost, adding some fertiliser so there's loads of nutrition in there for this plant, and then we'll try and seed it around about the same level that we take it out. So first we need to get some compost in here. We've had 9 potato plants that's come up already in them small containers, so as they get to that size it's best we gradually start moving them on rather than having to do them all at once. So that's my box of plants that I'm going to be taking back indoors. We've got some tomato plants in there, actually coming along quite nicely. Quite a good size already, those. Then we've got those peppers we transplanted earlier, they're sweet bells. And then the original peppers that we started growing just after Christmas. A really good size. Starting to put on extra top growth as well now. So that's my box of plants to go back indoors tonight. So first thing I'm going to do is take some of this old compost. It's not the best stuff in the world. There's a few roots and stuff at the bottom of it as well, but it's alright to use as a base. There's only going to be roots growing at the bottom of these containers. Your potatoes are going to come further up, first or second earlies will grow around halfway up that container, and some maybe close to the top, but they will spread outwards when they grow. They're not like your main crops where they start to produce tubers and then you bury them and they put more out, and so on and so forth. The deeper you bury those plants, the more potatoes you get. But with your first and second earlies, they just grow at one level, which is why we're using a tub that's got consistent width all the way up. So we've got that in bottom. I've got some fish blood and bone as well, so a good handful of that stuff in bottom. That's loads of nutrition. Or you could use grow more or bone meal, whatever you've got. After that, we need to get us depth. So using the same size container, the 2 litre, we can just pop that in and then we'll see round about how much we need to fill it. So we need a little bit more in there at the moment. And if you leave your compost loose, it's going to help those potatoes expand as they grow. So we've added a bit more, and at that we're not far off. You can see that it's almost to that level. So now we'll get this little plant transplanted. So a bit closer up, you can see that we're more or less at that level. It doesn't hurt to bury potato plants a little bit deeper, but there's not really any need, as I said, with first and second earlies. So we're using that as a marker. Now hopefully we can get this plant out without that compost falling apart. We're about to find out. So I'm just going to tip that, squeeze bottom and see if it will come out in one, which it has done. And you can see we've already got roots starting to tangle, so just gently loosening those roots off. And I think we've caught this at just the right time. So basically we'll just sit that down in there nice and central, and we're not breaking that root ball up. We're going to let that continue undisturbed, and then we're going to fill this container up. So roughly chucking that compost in, we'll give that a bit of a shake just to level it out a little bit, and then we'll press it down. But don't compact it too much. As I said, you want those potatoes to be able to grow quite easily, just in the same way you would onions. You don't want to restrict that growth. And we've got plenty more room to put compost down there as well. And I use Vitax Q4 compost. Somebody did ask me about that quite recently, but I'm not sure where you get that from. I get 3 56 litre bags for £18, which is quite a good deal. But I have noticed people selling them on eBay for £15 a bag, which is nothing more than extortion. But any half decent multi-purpose compost is what I'll go for. So we're just filling in around this plant steadily. This has not been sieved, but it doesn't matter at this point. So again, I'll give that a shake. We'll bang it down as well, and then we'll level that out. And we're leaving a gap around top as well, so that we can water it properly. So now it's just a case of just firming it in a little bit. We know we've got plenty of compost in there for this plant now. It's buried a little bit deeper, but not too much. And that is pretty much all we need to do, apart from give this a really good deep watering. So on this occasion, I'm just going to use a jug of water, because then we can give it a really deep watering. And that's going to keep it going for quite a while. And that's as rocket first early all set up. So it's as easy as that. Start your potatoes off in small containers when it's really cold, so you can put them indoors to protect them, and then very quickly you can transplant them into a larger container to carry on growing until it's ready for harvest. And your first earlies take somewhere in the region of 12 to 14 weeks to reach harvest time. Obviously that's dependent on weather as well, but what I tend to do is wait till these plants just start to wilt and die down a little bit. You'll be able to see when these plants are reaching the end. Some varieties will flower, some don't. So just rely on the fact that when this plant's ready, it will give up itself. And the great thing about growing potatoes in containers is you've not got the problem of slugs. 9 times out of 10, especially with your first and second earlies, you're quite early in year, so it's still quite damp. And if you leave your new potatoes in ground for too long, they will get attacked by slugs. Then they're going to be no good. So at least this way, you guarantee yourself a bit of an harvest. So if you have done this, keep your eye on them plants. Don't let them get much bigger than 6 inch before you transplant them, because as you can see, those roots soon start to build up. Free them off a little bit, transplant them, add a bit of feed, and you're all good to go. So that's the job I've done today. That's the biggest one. We've got a few more behind me that are still quite small, so they'll be fine to stay in those containers for another week or two. But at least slowly we're getting things done. So as I said, keep your eye on that weather. Take your tender plants indoors for the next couple of days and get ready for May. Because once May hits, temperatures are going to start to increase. There's going to be a lot more seed sowing to do. And because we're doing a lot of container stuff, even though you can get frosts during mid-May, we've always got the option to offer that little bit of extra protection. And just before I go, thank you so much to his latest donators. That's Serenity Tree, Hilary Berry, M. Sigsworth and Chris Saville. Very generous of you to make donations to the channel, and we'll be definitely putting that to good use over the next couple of weeks as we progress on this new full-on container gardening project. So thank you so much for your generosity. So if you want to see what happens with these plants and numerous others as we go over the next few weeks, please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you then. You all take care.